Well, what's up, folks? Well, it's Friday. We know that. Looks like we made it through another week. So, hey, celebrate that, right? But thank you for tuning in, dropping in, and tuning on. Appreciate it. Speaking favor over us all. Words are important. You can't really never not talk enough about words. But anyway, we'll be talking more about words. But first, we'll say favor. Favor is the word. Sounds like Sesame Street, doesn't it? Favor is the word. But seriously, it is. It's always nice to have it. And nothing missing, nothing broken. If we fully grasped those words and truly believed them, probably a good many of us would probably be, you know, transported, translated to another place. This place couldn't hold it. Maybe that's what happens. I've heard that. Hello, everybody in the chat room. Purgatory Traveler, what's up? Marco Polo and Shirley. Deborah Sloan, how are you, darling? Good to see you, DC. Rick, what's up? I know there's others I saw in there. I saw Chloe. What's up? Hello, Robert Scott. Good to see you, my friend. Uh, Voiceover by Stephanie Marie. Honored to have you here, my dear. Good to see you as well. Who else is hanging out? John Price, what's up? Good to see you. Lori, hello. Who else? I just want to make sure. Grace, couldn't forget you. How are you, my dear? So, anyway, welcome all the rest. I see Mr. Floyd there as well, and Multiversal God King. I love that handle. That is cool. So, Bonnie, good to see you as well. So, Shirley, hello. Anyway, it's, you know, Thursday. I always love it. Tomorrow, I will not be here on Friday. I think I said we made another Friday. Wow. So I just, well, when I watch this replay, I'll have to go Steiger. Man, you're like already traveling between the future and the present. I mean, many of us are avid travelers to the past. I mean, we're experts at that. I mean, we are truly beings that are above time, space, because we've mastered time in more ways than what we realize. Each memory we invoke is the ability to travel back in time. We create this moment, this reality around that moment, and we can instantaneously bring ourselves into the present, which would be for the past, the future. So it would be future past. I think there's an album like that. That's all I got to say. And a damn good one, too. Hello, El Capo. Good to see you. But Gaia, hello. How are you and Paul? Good to see you, darling. Um, hey, think about it. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. We really are taught to be dumbed down. I mean, the moment we come in here, we're told that there are laws, there are rules, and there's penalties if you break them, consequences if you go against them, right? So how much free will do you really have on that? I mean, that's kind of a sick way of doing it. Someone wrote me and said, "Why do you seem to be so mad at God?" And I wrote him back. I said, "Well, first of all, tell me which God you're talking about." They wrote back and said, "Well, I'm specifically talking about the Father and Jesus." So I promptly wrote back. I said, "Well, here's the problem with Father. We have no idea where that came from. Now we can trace it back into the other religions, you know, Roman culture, Grecian culture, hell, Egyptian culture, um, but not in the Hebrew culture." And I said, "So I don't know which God you're making reference to, but I said, if you're making reference to the God of the Bible, which there's many, and particularly of the Old Testament," I said, "Yeah, I got a real beef with that one." I said, "The problem is with that God, and for Jesus to be associated with that God, is that that God never took any responsibility. It screwed the whole thing up. It was apparently inapt of understanding when you create something new with consciousness, if you follow the narrative, gave us a soul. Well, he gave men souls. You ladies, there's some question about that. Anyway, moving right on along. Um, had no idea, apparently, because apparently he had a fairly messed up reality already. I mean, he had a war. Why didn't he make full disclosure of that when he created the first one, right? Let me tell you the problem here. Here's a scene, right? I just created you. Welcome into reality. I hope you like it. And basically you kind of got everything you need here. And I hope you enjoy it. I mean, have fun doing your own creation. And went on. He should have said, but there's a little problem. Yes, I'm God and I'm perfect, but I had a little mistake. And I had this coup d'etat, and there was this uprising. And anyway, I got a lot of pissed off enemies. And since I created you, well, it kind of sucks because you're in the crosshairs too. But that's not what happened. No. Kills us, blames us for our actions that are as normal to us, and then has the gall and the audacity to want to accuse us as though it was our fault. Yeah, it's like the Democrats saying about with the border. I don't care. You own it, man. You fucked up. You let a lot of bad people into this country, and guess what? You fucked up. So you need to own it. Put it right there on your chest and like, I fucked up. People will respect you for that. And as I wrote to this person, summarizing it, of course, that if this God would ever take responsibility and get off of this throne thing and get his hands dirty, coming down here in the shit and start doing some fucking miracles that everybody could see day by day, might be a different story, but it's not. So anyway, uh, Bonnie says perhaps God gave us a hard time so we can appreciate that. That's fucked up, Bonnie. I love you, darling, but come on, that's messed up. That's passive aggressiveness. It doesn't need to be that. Why should we have to even be worried about pain? Why? If it was in a perfect environment, pain ain't in the equation. Well, we certainly learned that wasn't the case, honey. Bonnie, love you, darling. Just pointing it out on that. Hey, Susan, good to see you. And Millie, hello. Al Gerondo, how are you? Good to see you. So anyway, that's just what I wrote back. That's all it would take is if seriously, if you had this ultimate being. Because no matter how we want to fantasize it, create it, no matter how much we want to say it exists, the fact is no one can point to it. And it's all different up here to each person. So there we go. See, Gaia got it right. So she says, I hit you because I love you. Yeah. Yeah, man. And if you've ever been in an abusive relationship, you know that sucks. I love you, but that's the problem. They always get their ass in the middle of it, right? Love you, but Bonnie, love you too, darling. Paul Joe, what's up? So, El Gapo, the Council of Nicaea, yeah, remove the books to conceal the connection to the Anunnaki God. Yeah, and it's been it's an illusion. So I want to get into this thing with words. But before I get there, it's interesting because we actually covered one of the books of this guy, and I thought it was worthwhile because I want to get into the word thing too, because the word The word thing is serious. Yeah, it's serious. All right. But anyway, so came across this and I thought, well, we talk about this a lot. And so this is the destiny of the souls. I don't know how many of you read it. I know many of you, we covered a number of his books, but I thought this was really interesting. It says, at the moment of death, our soul rises out of its host body. If the soul is older and has experience from many former lives, it knows immediately it has been set free and is going home. I like that. That just gives you just all sorts of smelling, pie baking in there, and you got the aroma of the house and the season. I mean, to me, it's almost kind of brings you into tears because you're like, man, I'm so fucking tired of all this. It's a constant struggle. And it seems like, you know, no matter how much progress I make, it's like, man, it's the world out there. And it's like, yeah, I can dig this. Now, I guess the question would be, so what are you? Are you an older soul or a new soul? Could you imagine being a new soul? I don't sense I am. I sense in many ways I'm much older than I ever realized. And that's, I think, a part of who and what I am as an energy being. I've been like this since they brought me in, that light turned on. So, but how many of you think you're an old soul? How many of you think you're a new soul or, adolescent, teenager? Gives you a whole different perspective because if you're an older soul, what comes with age is wisdom, supposedly. That could be debated, but supposedly. And with the youth, you make mistakes in order to learn to gain the wisdom. So put it in the context of a soul. It indicates that some of us were like, we were, and always have been rebels, must have started in our adolescence of our souls. And I hope they had rock and roll. Anyway, so these advanced souls need no one to greet them. However, most souls I work with are met by guides just outside Earth's astral plane. He'll take you trips throughout the day. Timothy Lear. Anyway, great album, by the way. In Search of the Lost Chord. I digress only slightly. A young soul or a child who has died may be a little disorientated until someone comes closer to ground level for them. There are souls who choose to remain at the scene of their death for a while. Most wish to leave at once. Time has no meaning in the spirit world. Disincarnates who choose to comfort someone who is grieving or have other reasons to stay near the place of their death for a while experience no sense of time loss. This becomes now time for the soul as opposed to linear time. Soul time. I like Soul Train. Mm-hmm. As they move further away from Earth, souls experience an increasingly brilliant light around them. Some will briefly see a grayish darkness and will sense passing through a tunnel or portal. The differences between these two phenomena depends upon the exit speed of the soul. So does the soul travel faster than the speed of light? What's your hypothesis on that? I think it does, but that's just me. Anyway, which in turn relates to their experience. The pulling sensation from our guides may be gentle or forceful, depending upon the soul's maturity and capacity for rapid change. I think about many of us as we've gone through life here and how life itself, through circumstances not of our own making and sometimes of our own doing, how we get this ability to adapt. You know, I've been rich and I've been poor. The thing is how well do you adapt? And I would dare say many of us in this group are very adaptable. We're very agile. And it doesn't mean that, some people would say, well, that would almost, say that there's a certain, hardness to it. No, a callousness. No, I think we've just learned it's, and we come to these epiphanies individually, and it's just these things we begin to recognize. And I think for many of us in here, it's obviously that we have the capacity for rapid change. I think they know that. In the early stages of their exit, all souls encounter a whispery cloudiness around them that soon becomes clear, enabling them to look off into a vast distance. This is the moment when the average soul sees a ghostly form of energy coming towards them. This figure may be a loving soulmate or two, but more often than not, it is our guide. In circumstances where we are met by a spouse or friend who has passed on before us, our guide is also close by so they can take over the transition process. In all my years of research, I have never had a single subject who was not met by a major religious figure such as Jesus or Buddha. Still, the loving essence of the great teachers from earth is within the personal guides who are assigned to us. And that's pretty far out, you know. Listen, I know the words of the Jesus. I've read the words of the Buddha. And if you can extrapolate out the religious connotations, they're far out words. It's where I learn the power of words. Yeah, someone says you quote the Bible. That's I do. It's fucking down inside of me. You can't change that. But I'm glad that I can because there's a lot of wisdom embedded in that. I mean, that's why I know the power of words. Mark 11, 22, 23, and 24. You know, powerful truths. Anyway, and I have no doubt that when I'll probably meet the Jesus character. I don't know, probably going to pin a medal on me and have my back and said, man, you did it. I'll give him a high five and then, continue to truck on. By the time souls become reorientated again to the place they call home, their earthliness has changed. They are no longer quite human in the way we think of a human being with a particular emotional, temperamental, and physical makeup. For instance, they don't grieve about their recent physical death in the way their loved ones will. It is our souls that make us human on earth, but without our bodies, we are no longer Homo sapiens. The soul has such majesty that it is beyond description. I tend to think of souls as intelligent light forms of energy. Right after death, souls suddenly feel different because they are no longer encumbered by the temporary host body with a brain and a central nervous system. Some take longer to adjust than others. I've seen this. We've talked about this in the decade I have been on this medium, and I've loved it. It has risen me to levels of understanding, open doors of awareness that I could have never comprehended ever possible 2 decades ago. And what is remarkable is that I've seen this process. Many who have had experiences of out of body, astral projecting, it is that silver cord that we're connected to, and that cord is integrated into this magnificent piece of engineering. I love my body. My body has, and your body has a spirit about it. And if you make love to that spirit body, it will keep you healthy. It'll do its best to continue to operate at peak performance, even in the face of all the elements that come against our bodies. They're remarkable. And I have no doubt that when we depart, the essence of what these bodies have served, I do believe that there is a reward for them. I don't know what it is, but I do not believe it's not just merely returning back to Mother Earth, that there's something special about it, something that we haven't even discovered yet. Um, but I can dig that. You know, People who really love their bodies, and, there is an extreme part of that, but yeah, I can see where that would be a problem. For me, I love this body. It's allowed me to enjoy sex. It's allowed me to know different emotions and feelings far out. I mean, I'm taking it back home, and when we're sitting around the celestial fire of the elements of creation and passing the pipe of enlightenment, you know, we'll be talking about this because time doesn't exist. I have no doubt that, we'll be able to put it in full IMAX. It says the energy of the soul is able to divide into identical parts similar to a hologram. It may live parallel lives in other bodies, although this is much less common than we read about. Wow. Huh. How about that? However, because of the dual capability of all souls, part of our light energy always remains behind in the spirit world. Years ago, we did a whole study on this. It's estimated that most of us bring about between 25 and 35% of our energy here. That means the majority of it is still back home. Ain't that cool? It's like, man, boy, I'm glad we thought of that. Says, thus, it is possible to see your mother upon returning from a life, even though she may have died 30 Earth years before and reincarnated again. Just between you and I in a fence post, because we're an intimate group here. I don't know if I like this idea of reincarnating again and again, particularly here. Now, I don't know if there's other planets. I don't know. It's like it seems so narrow that it's only Earth, because we know that there's more than just Earth. So the idea of this reincarnating back here into Earth, I don't know. Seems like it can get redundant after a while, right? I guess that's another word for reincarnation. Anyway, orientation periods with our guides, which takes place before joining our cluster group, vary between souls and between different lives for the same soul. This is a quiet time for counseling and with the opportunity to vent any frustrations we have about the life just ended. I could see this group. So, here's the big guides, and so we're gathering as a tribe. And could you see they say, all right, so does anyone have a complaint? I mean, do you have a real bitch you just want to get off your chest? I think it would be a mad scramble to see who's get first into line. Do we have a few things to say? Yeah, I don't know. Uh, Orientation is the spirit world's intent to be an initial debriefing session with gentle probing by perceptive, Caretaking, caring teacher guides. I wonder if the guides ever come back or the teachers. I would say yes. It seems like it, right? The meeting may be long or short depending upon the circumstances of what we did or did not accomplish with regard to our life contract. Serena, I talked about we've got to see the contract. You've got to go deep in and make a purposely request to see this contract. It's interesting because then you begin to see yourself from multidimensional perspectives. You see yourself as a child, you are the child, but the child is looking at you as a later, older adult. And the child is reasoning as to how the child got to where it is. And then you split into these infinite matter of fractals of looking at each moment of your life, then comparing that to apparently this contract. Now, every contract is designed to protect and to give benefits to both parties. Who's the other party? You know? And contracts have clawback clauses in them for those who violate the terms or do not fulfill the terms of the agreement. Well, that just brings in a whole new conversation, doesn't it? Like, holy shit. All right. So I don't know. How long is your meeting going to be? Anyone want to give a guess? Since time doesn't exist, can I ask a simple question, please? Got my hand up. Good sir, so we're dead, right? And we're now where time doesn't matter. How do I know if it's a long or a short period of time? I don't have a reference. That's why I got the ire of so many of my teachers. You know, some called me smartass, but no. I found my life at that you get in trouble if you just assume something here. I don't know what long or short, depending on the circumstances, mean. What does that mean? Do I just go in, go out? I mean, all right. Special karmatic issues are also reviewed, although they will be discussed later in minute detail within our soul cluster group. Well, we'll have some fun times then, won't we? The returning energy of some souls will not be sent back into their soul group right away. These are the souls who are contaminated by their physical bodies and became involved with evil acts. Again, I don't know what that means. Am I using the Bible as the benchmark for defining what an evil act is? Well, the Bible teaches me that murder is a bad thing. But the very freaking creator that says it created a thing does it with proficiency. So does God have to go in for counseling? We're sorry, God. But yeah, you gotta, I'm sorry, but we can't let you go forward here. Dude, you need some serious counseling. I mean, holy crap. I don't know. There is a difference between wrongdoing with no premeditated desire to hurt someone and intentional evil. The degrees of harm to others, from mischief to malevolence, are carefully evaluated. Again, and I'm just a layman. Who wrote these fucking rules? I mean, who's the one dictating all this? Because I got to tell you, from my personal experience here, then something's messed up. I mean, something is so upside down, inside out, because you want to talk about a bitch session. Got a few things I'd like to talk about because you can't come in my limited, consciousness I know it goes beyond that, but within this physical body, etc. Um, that's backwards, man. That's twisted. Because as children, many face things that you can't blame that person later in life about the way they turned out in life. That's bullshit. Because if that young soul, that life coming in is subjected to the abuse, the evil that you're talking about here, and then that person later goes through life just simply imitating that which it knows, that person can't be held responsible. It would be injustice to do so. You have to deal with where that pain, that hurt, that wound was inflicted. And again, I got a problem with this gods. I mean, where the hell, I've said this before. When I was getting beat within to an inch of my life, there was no fucking Jesus there with me. I can guarantee you that. No goddamn Lucifer or Satan. It was my ass and my back and my broken bones. You know, you know, I found the path because that's the way my life was meant to be. But yeah. And for some people, it breaks them. It breaks their spirit. So anyway, and I'm sure that there's probably a classroom on the other side for that too. Anyway, those souls who have been associated with evil are taken to special centers. Man, I'm getting some freaky, science fiction scenes. I got, for instance, Soylent Green when Saul went to, the place where, they euthanize people. Anyway, resistance is futile, where some clients call intensive care units. Here, I am told their energy is remodeled to make it whole again. Depending upon the nature of their transgressions, these souls could be rather quickly returned to earth. They might well choose to serve as the victims of other evil acts in the next life. Again, I have a limited understanding. I'm certainly open to the fact that I don't know hardly anything in the larger scheme of things. Still, if their actions were prolonged and especially cruel over a number of lives, this would donate a pattern of wrongful behavior. You think? Do you think? Such souls could spend a long while in solitary spiritual existence, possibly over 1,000 Earth years. A guiding principle in the spirit world is that wrongdoing, intentional or unintentional, on the part of all souls will need to be readdressed in some form in a future life. This is not considered punishment or even penance as much as an opportunity for karmic growth. There is no hell for souls except perhaps on earth. Some lives are so different that the soul arrives home very tired. Despite the energy rejuvenation process initiated by our guides who combine their energy with ours at the gateway, we may still have a depleted energy flow. In these cases, more rest and solitude may be called for rather than celebrations. Indeed, many souls who desire rest receive it before reunification with their groups. Our soul groups may be boisterous or subdued, but they are respectful of what we have gone through during an incarnation. All groups welcome back their friends in their own way with deep love and camaraderie. Homecoming is a joyous interlude, especially following a physical life where there might not have been much karmatic contact with our intimate soulmates. Most of my subjects tell me that are welcomed back with hugs, laughter, and much humor. I knew it. It's like this group, which I find to be the hallmark of life in the spirit world, a good sense of humor. People take things today, they're so freaking touchy. I mean, you can't laugh, you can't have humor. Why? Well, because that offends me. Well, I could say something about that, but I won't. I'll just be a nice guy. The really effusive groups who have planned elaborate celebrations for the returning soul may suspend all of their other activities. One subject of mine had this to say about his homecoming welcome. Come to the beach. That's what I'm talking about. After my last life, my group organized one hell of a party with music, wine, dancing, and singing. I wonder if there's other. They arranged everything to look like a classical Roman festival with marble halls, togas, and all the exotic furnishings prevalent in our many lives together in the ancient world. That means that probably us, I'm just throwing this out there, if we go by the narrative, we have done this, folks, in so many different cultures, so many different societies, so many different times. We always seem to be the ones that come together, and regardless of what life it is, we find each other in discussion groups. They may be book clubs, they may be philosophical discussion, but I have a feeling we've done this before many times. Melissa, a primary soulmate, was waiting for me right up front, recreating the age that I remembered her best and looking as radiant as ever. Soul groups range between 3 and 25 members, with the average having about 15. There are times when souls from nearby cluster groups may want to connect with each other. Often this activity involves older souls who have made many friends from other groups, with whom they have been associated with over hundreds of past lives. Some 10 million viewers in the U.S. saw the TV show Sightings, produced by Paramount in 95, which aired a segment about my work. Those who watched this show about life after death may remember one of my clients by the name of Colleen, who spoke about a session we had together. She described returning to the spirit world after a former life to find a spectacular 17th century full dress ball in progress. My subject saw over 100 people who came to celebrate her return. A time and place she had loved was lavishly reproduced so Colleen could begin the process of renewal in style. Far out. All right. Went a little bit longer than that, but yeah, there's great hope, folks. That's what I'm trying to convey to you. The world may be messed up out there, man, but in here, it is Shangri-La. All right, so if those of you, David, I'm thinking of you, brother, uh, Golden Dawn, don't ever drop that book on your toe. It will freaking hurt, just telling you. All right, words. Words are important. Why? Because they create the reality. I was taught this decades and decades ago, that all you have to do is to look at where you are right now and know that your words from the past is what made everything around you and where you are in life. Your words brought you there. It's brought you here. It's inescapable. It works the same for all of us. Even though you may not believe it, the vast majority of people do not hear over 90% of what they say. It's remarkable. Yeah. Chatterbots. So this is Whence the Power of Words, an analysis of the three verbal modalities in the Boneless Ritual of the Golden Dawn, by Gabriel D. Dietz, 2014. The Boneless Ritual is a ritual of evocation designed and utilized by the Victorian occult group of the Golden Dawn, an organization founded in 1981 by S.L. MacGregor Mathers and William Wynne Westcott. It is a ritual that is supposed to allow the practitioner to make contact with his own higher genius, which seems to be capable of being viewed as both an internal aspect of the self and an external being simultaneously. This contact was an essential aspect of the occultist's mission to achieve a perfected state. Like most rituals, The rite utilizes a powerful mixture of verbal modes and physical actions coupled with the manipulations of objects. In the case of this ritual, as in many others, the words have a particular significance with respect to its efficiency. Boy, gotta spell that one. Tambaya has noted that when an ethnographer asks, why is this ritual effective? The answer, more often than not, is an expressed opinion that the magic lies in the words. Couldn't have said it better myself. The magic lies in our words. You know, if you're doing chores, like that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. That's why I won't be on. But it's great times for waking meditation before you go to sleep. We know these things, and if you put them in practice, next week I want to do. Remember, and in fact, I can tell you it was about 3 years ago when I did the series on It Works, and I told everyone, to make your list. So my list, I still have my list. Do you know I've gotten 7 out of the 10? 7 out of the 10 things that I wrote to manifest that did not exist has fucking manifested. So this stuff works. Yeah. And I use the slang language. It is worth noting that the Bornless ritual ends with a solemn proclamation. Such are the words, not such are the deeds, or such is the right, but such are the words. This paper will take up the task of identifying and analyzing the verbal modes of the ritual in an attempt to discover what the words can tell us about the culture that practice it. I mean, wouldn't it have been something? I wonder how many of us may have actually been with John Dee's circle. I wonder if John Dee has dropped in. You know, I because we don't gravitate to these things unless there has been some sort of familiarity that would be in our psyche somewhere. But it's important. Such are the words. Why do certain words have power? Or rather, how did various Western occultists explain the power of words, and how did this explanation shift over time? How is the power of words mobilized in the ritual? What does this tell us about the very particular moment and context in which these occultists were working, namely modern times? In his article, The Magical Magical Power of Words, S.J. Tamboth states that ritual is both word and deed combined rather than simply stereotyped behavior consisting of nonverbal acts and manipulation of objects. Moreover, complex rituals entail the exploitation of different verbal forms arranged in ordered sequence that overlay specific actions. In illustrating his point, Tambaya uses the example from the Sinhalese exorcism ceremony practiced by Ceylon. Looking closely at this ritual, he identified 3 verbal forms that accompanied the ceremonial acts: mantra, Kanava, and Kanveya. The ceremony follows the patterns mantras, the Kanelava, the Kavaya, and then another mantra. And Tabias insists that the use of this distinct variety of verbal forms utilizes in this particular sequence the constitutive of the ritual's logic. Now, my point to all this is, what if this group could learn some of these power words? We'll get more into this next week because I'm convinced that if we could get in here, and if any of you happen to have any experience in this, let me know. Because I wonder what people like Aleister Crowley would have done if he had had the internet, if he had had radio at his disposal. What kind of changes would that have brought? Anyway, I want to stop right there. We'll probably get into this ritual itself. Um, yeah, looking at the possibility here is amazing. We've done some amazing aspects of what I would call building our own egregore. This group has manifested. And it occurred to me, well, what if we had ancient words of power? I remember a particular sermon way back in my life, and it was on the power of words, the word of power. There is a word of power that is more superior than to the power of words. We know if you speak Hebrew in a number of the prayers, that it's been demonstrated. If you're a fan of Skinwalker Ranch, Brandon's property, we saw it on camera. You saw it live. Well, the show when it aired, that having a rabbi speak a certain Hebraic prayer, that it opened up a portal. It is said, I was taught in Bible school that Moses, it wasn't the staff, it wasn't anything, it was the words. Aaron, the first priest, knew the words. The Levitical priesthood were taught the words, these words of power, since been lost. So they say when they went into Babylonian captivity, they forgot who God was, their God. They learned about a few others while they were out there. But in any case, it just gets into the whole point. If we had this, and then I wonder, well, what would be the repercussions? I mean, I am sure that there are videos out there where we could probably find these recordings. I'd just be curious to see if we could also determine if there was any physical effect. Are these effects just merely what happens in the unseen realm that our eyes can't see? I know certain of the grimoires that I have in my library, and I've spoken them. I know for a fact that they do open portals. I'm also very studious of closing that, but I have no doubt that at some point in my past I have probably let some open, and like, what the hell happened? But anyway, it's just a thought. Let me know, and if you would like this to get into some of these word of powers, let me know. Leave it in the comments. They usurp their memories and their past. See, Stephanie, I'm looking in on the conversation, and it's like, what? um, Paul Joe says, I sat under Hebraic prayer. It's powerful magic. It is. I almost converted to Judaism. Very powerful. But I was I was truly a Gentile. Now I have, oddly enough, I have 1% Jewish blood. So there you go. What do you know? uh, let's see. Wanted is better than unwanted. So anyway, walking water, Nam Mu, May, what is that? Mehohu, Rengi, Keu, from the Lotus Sutra. Well, I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. Guy, what's up, girl? Let's see. It's interesting about people are talking. I saw that, Rick, in your comment on the Vatican Library. It's apparently the only ones that got the books. I mean, they're the ones that, if you take a conspiracy theorist perspective, so who burned the Book of Alexandria? It was said that the Library of Alexandria contained the knowledge of the pre-Adamic world. They had the knowledge of a time that existed before this time. One library that's not mentioned hardly at all is Nebuchadnezzar's library in Babylon. That library is rumored to contain all the real magic. It was rumored to contain the writings of Seth before he died. Um, he put into the Hall of Records, the cave, excuse me, that it is said that he wrote by a process and a means that when he wrote these words, that they literally illuminated. He was the record keeper from the knowledge of Adam, and that what was said to have been found and contained within the Babylonian library. I would have loved to have visited that. Rumor says that it's possible where the prophet Daniel, this is how he learned to open the portals to this God, the God that you read in the book of Daniel, which is a highly prophetic book, which, as I look at it now, I studied that freaking book, studied it for years. And now I see it from a totally different perspective. I get the words that were being spoken, but that was a human being that was in communication with an alien consciousness. I don't know if it was the fallen angels or what, but, highly symbolic. I mean, if you've ever read the book of Daniel, many say that we are now living in the 70th week of Daniel's prophecy. I don't know. Everyone's got an opinion. Rick says, I want truth. Yeah. Do my tongue. You can't handle the truth. Yeah. That's what they think of us. You can't handle the truth. Sure. Ryan, what's up? Yes, Ryan, absolutely. That's why we speak favor. I know this. I mean, I know when I pass over, when it's my time, my words, the seeds that I've sown into all of your lives, it just continues on. Maybe that was my purpose for coming here. I don't know. Maybe my purpose was to be finding hanging out with all you folks. And that's all I can say. Hey, Scotty boy, what's up? So good to see you. Salute. But yeah. And I guess the good thing is we found each other. Aren't we a bunch of smarty pants? We did it. We did it. Ryan, got to get you on here, brother. Is so yeah. Words. You see, I learned those people in the past, I often think of them, people like Hagin. Kenneth Hagin taught me faith. I was an ignorant human being. I didn't understand faith. Vast majority of people don't understand faith. It's not easy. Faith is very difficult to master. Most people don't give a second thought to faith. I do all the time. Why? Because it's so ingrained in me. And I've seen it work. Calling those things that be not as though they are. Powerful magic. Mark 11:23, it says, have the faith of God. That's what it translates. So, or have the God-like faith. And it says, if you would say unto this mountain, be cast up and thrown into the sea, and not doubt in your heart, but believe that those things for which you say, they shall come to pass. Now, there's a kicker to the back of it. It says that if you've got anything, you got a bitch about someone, you got a grudge, someone you haven't forgiven, it's going to impact your faith. It's going to impact the power of your words. That mountain, by the way, can be any obstacle that's standing between you and your desire, your goal, your purpose. Not just metaphorically. I have no doubt if you had enough faith, you could probably pick up a mountain with just your words. But, well, thank you, Stephanie. So kind of you. Well, thank you. Um, but these are the things I learned. And I found out I didn't need a religion for them to work. These principles are we can call them laws of the spirit realm. We can call it laws of the physical realm. They're laws. And if you can learn to master your faith, which would make you a powerful occultist, a powerful witch, wizard. I mean, that's how powerful faith is. People all the time speak things, then they wonder why they come. For instance, I've heard this all my life. People will say, I think I'm catching a cold. Well, guess what? You're going to catch it. It's going to happen. Why? Because they program you for you to believe in that word. I think I'm catching a cold. You do that. I hear people say all the time, I'll be damned. Why the fuck would you want to say that? Why would you want to damn yourself? Or people say, them goddamn kids. Seriously? Are you listening to yourself? Or how about this one? That just kills me. You're going to die laughing. I mean, these are expressions that you think are very innocent, but they're not. And you believe them. You're on autopilot. Out of the abundance of your heart, you're going to speak exactly what you believe, how much faith you have. It's going to come out. And typically, it really comes out when you're in a moment of intense pain. Then you really find out where people really stand. Are they saying, bless me, bless me, bless me? Or are they going, God damn it, God, Hey. So anyway, for what it's worth, I manifest a lot of things instantly. Scotty boy, we all do. That's just it. Yeah. So anyway, that's why I love this group. This is a group. I mean, seriously, we've got to get together and hang out. You know, we'll make that happen. We'll get a hold of these words of power and yeah. So I'm one heck of a guy. I love it. So anyone, I hope you had this that this has been at least fun for you. It sucks if it hasn't, you know. Just looking back at all of it, gotta go cut 5 acres of grass. Rage Against the Machine, that's a lot of freaking cutting. Holy crap. All right, get out there. Don't work too hard in this heat and humidity. So anyway, folks, hope you have yourself a great weekend. Again, I won't be here. Oh, I do want to show you one thing, though. So this came from my garden. Isn't that beautiful? It got blown over by the wind. There was a storm that came in. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The universe is in that flower. I mean, seriously, I'll take it out here just to show you what I mean by that. So, do you see what I'm talking about? The universe is in the structure of this flower. I think that's how a lot of us are. I think that's how we are. Yeah, beautiful. We just let it shine. All right, everybody. Well, thank you, guys. Yeah, yes, Deborah, they are Zeniths are, and I have a variety of them. They're beautiful. And I'll tell you what's so cool. So we've got baby deer coming up. And so I'm out there, working in with the plants, talking to them. And these zinnias are growing up there along with the asters. And I have this red hat on, and I have this hummingbird that comes next to my ear. And it's just going, And it was because I'm around all these other red flowers and what have you. And it was just a magical moment. I mean, I stopped and I was so cognitively aware that this creature that has a heartbeat that's, 100, whatever it is, per second, and that it stood just that moment in time right next to my ear. Ah, far out, folks. I don't care what anyone says. So anyway, much love to everyone. Ruby, how are you doing? Just saw your name in there as Red Honey. Good to see you. And to Ginger, how are you doing, dear? Haven't seen you in a little bit. Trust you're well. All right, everybody. We'll miss you, but I'll be out working hard tomorrow. Trust me. So I'll see y'all on Monday, and we'll pick up. I tattooed that flower in Wayne's favor. Thank you. Ain't that cute? There's Miss Trina. We love you, darling. Salt of the earth. Thank you. Y'all are just so beautiful. So I'll see you on Monday. We'll talk more about these words of power. I think this would be a good little group project. We could get fluent in it. Imagine. All right. Until we meet again, love one another, love yourselves, and speak favor all